Hi there, welcome. Welcome to Homekeepers. Come right on in, my friends. Such a good day here in Florida. I hope it is where you are as well. And want you to know you're welcome. Come in, whether you're one of the regulars or brand new visitor to the program. I want you to know that you are welcome. And we like to talk about those things that affect the home and want to do what we can to make the homes of America a whole lot better, because when that happens, we'll have a much better nation. It's going to be a good show today because we're going to talk about children, and that's a big part of anybody's home, isn't it? Brenda Adams is my guest today. She's an author and a pastor's wife, and it's good to see her again. I haven't seen her for a long time. She wrote a book titled Rebecca, the Voice of God, the story of God's love for his children. And got to be honest with you, I had to get the Kleenex out while I was reading this book. I'll let her tell the story, but when you read about a mother holding not much more than an infant, a few months old, and all they do is scream in pain, and you're holding that baby and you're praying, and it's day after day and night after night, and the things that the Lord taught her, and she's now put in a book. So it took her quite a long time to write the book. So I welcome Brenda, and I want you to hear her story. And I'm going to join Stephanie. We're going to fix deluxe German potato salad. And living in Florida and going out on the beach, I think it's still out there. It's a place called Ted Peters Fish, and the food was wonderful. They would smoke the fish for hours and hours and hours. But they made a German potato salad that was out of this world. The only problem was you tasted it for 3 days afterwards. But we'll see how this one is. Nothing like a good potato salad, but the German potato salad's kind of warm. We'll show you about it. I'm still offering you the book, If My People. This deals with praying for our nation. It's a 40-day guide to prayer. And I've been so moved reading it because it has in it some of the prayers prayed by our presidents. Listen to this. Is from George Washington. But daily frame me more and more into the likeness of thy Son, Jesus Christ. Wow. That living in thy fear and dying in thy favor, I may in my appointed time attain the resurrection of the just into eternal life. Bless my family, friends, and kindred. That's our first president. It has prayers from some of the other presidents. When I read that and see how prayer is kicked around in this nation, it's very, very disturbing. And you know what? God's people ought to be doing exactly what this book is talking about. And this is your 40-day guide to prayer. And I want you to have it for any gift you want to send us. This is the way we stay on the air, my friends. And so I just can't apologize for asking you to keep a program on the air that is touching lives. And you determine the gift, whatever you can send. Hope you'll send the best you can to Homekeepers, Box 6922, Clearwater, Florida 33758. And we will be so glad to send it out to you. I'd like to do my part to really mobilize God's people to prayer, because this nation is going down the tubes. It's in a moral free fall. It's shocking. It's lawless. And only God's people's faithfulness and crying out to him can turn it around. And this book, I think, will motivate you to do that. So I hope that you will take part in this. And I'm over here with Sister Stephanie, and she's got the place smelling up with onions.
Onions and celery. So I made bacon in this pan, and then I reserved some of the grease. And I put onions and, I want to say cucumbers. It's not cucumbers, it's celery. And I'm sauteing. You're going to mix together for me. It calls for a cup of sugar, but we're going to try a half because we thought a cup was too much. And you have flour, and you have dry mustard, you have apple cider vinegar, water, and salt. So you're going to mix all that together for me while I saute the onions and celery. And this sounds like a really, really, really delicious dessert. We're going to pour all of that into my pan. And
oh, this goes in there?
Yes.
Okay.
So I'm just going to help you out.
Because didn't you bring us a picture?
I did.
What did you do last night?
Yes, I wanted to share what I did last night. A member of our church is a World War II veteran, and he got to go on an honor flight where they fly them to Washington, D.C. They each have their own assistant go with them.
Really?
Yes, they walk them around Washington, D.C. They get to go to the World War II Memorial, and it's all paid for, so they get to go celebrate.
Wonderful.
Well, they all flew into the St. Pete Clearwater Airport last night, and about 50 people from my church came for our gentleman, but there were hundreds of people there from the community.
Don't make me cry.
Oh, no, because you're gonna make me cry now. Stop it. Look, yeah, that was that's our pastor, Pastor Thomas and Gail, me and my husband, and another church member. And I mean,
you got your flag there.
There was hundreds and hundreds of people there in red, white, and blue. There were biker gangs there. The Knights of Columbus were there. The Bomber Girls were there. I mean, it was just, and then the band, there was a band there.
Oh,
but
really?
right before they got off the plane, the bagpipes came in. And see.
Oh my gosh.
And then our church member came around the corner and he saw all of us and he had no idea. And he just stopped and he just looked at us and he just couldn't believe what he was seeing. And I promise you that will be one of the biggest highlights of my whole year.
How old is he?
He's in his 90s.
Really? Because they are dying every single day.
Yeah. I mean, there were quite a few that they wheeled off in the wheelchairs, but there were quite a few that just walked off and were just waving. And they had gotten up at 4 a.m. to go on their tour, so they had a long day. Here I am looking exhausted, and like, okay, and here they come traipsing off the plane after that long day.
Tom Brokaw named them the greatest generation, and if you ever knew any of them,
I'm going to put this in here and we're going to bring it to a boil.
If you've ever known any of them, it's very, very accurate. My uncle was in the Navy in the Second World War, and I think he came back really damaged. He was a pastor and all, but there was things, because they didn't talk about anything.
Yes, yes.
You never knew what heroes they were.
Yes, well, and my son served in the Iraqi War, and I know what it did to us just here. Mm-hmm. So I can't imagine what it does to them over there, because I still can't even get through the Star-Spangled Banner without crying my eyes out.
And when you see the graves, in Normandy and so forth, and in Arlington, Virginia.
Yes.
So
that was
thank
an
God
amazing.
for the people who do that.
Yes,
for
and
them.
that was an amazing night. If you ever get the opportunity to do it, do it.
I
even stayed up
with you. I like to wave my flag.
I stayed up way past my bedtime last night, and I was okay with that because it was the best experience.
She really is.
I go to bed at 9 o'clock. I'm done. I was still there at 10:30, so I loved it.
Well, it's a great opportunity, and I'm glad you got to see it up close, because we read about it every once in a while, and God bless the people who make it possible.
Yes.
For them to go see that memorial.
It was just to see the looks on their faces when they got and saw all those people. That was
because they're a humble group.
Oh yes, yes.
Well, what do we do with all this?
Okay, if you want to go ahead and put that in, you can. And this is because it had flour in it. This is thickening up nice, and I can smell that vinegar.
And this, yes, if you've never done a German potato salad, it's
that's
nothing.
Parsley and carrots. It's because it's not mayonnaise based or mustard based.
The only thing about the American potato salad with this is they have potatoes.
Yeah,
that's
that's about it.
What about the bacon?
Okay, we're going to put that on top. But I just found a recipe that we have to try.
All right.
Okay, because I was thinking about bacon. Are you ready? Bacon cheesecake. Oh yeah.
We'll do it.
We're doing it. Okay, so we have all that mixed in.
German potato salad is warm.
Yes.
So, this called for 5 pounds. I think we got a little less here. It just looked like.
Oh my gosh, that smells so good.
Okay, you mix it up.
Yes, please. Can you smell that?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh.
I had a pastor take me to a German restaurant once, and it was wonderful. Oh, what great food. Oh, my. Okay, let's just throw some bacon on here so I can get you some. Oh, gosh, yes, right there. How yummy. Thank you. Okay, we got to taste.
There you go. Yeah, you need to get to your guests.
There's your fork.
It really, really needs to sit a while so all the flavors can marry, but you'll get a...
It's a wonderful combination of...
I would even go less sugar. I would go less sugar.
And we cut
But besides that, it's delicious. It's got bacon on it. What do you want?
Yeah. So, This is your deluxe German potato salad. I don't know what makes it deluxe, but because it tastes that way.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's any different. We did one several years ago, so I don't know if it's similar or not. But if you want the recipe, we'll send it to you.
Free.
We send them email if you have that, and otherwise write to us. No cost. We'll get it right to you. Stay. I want you to meet my friend Brenda.
If you would like a copy of today's recipe, just write to the address on your screen, or you can email your request to arthelene@rippy.org.
I'm so glad to welcome to Homekeepers Brenda Adams. Been a long time since I've seen you, girl.
Too long.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I was not aware of any of this
Right.
until I read your book.
Right.
When I knew you before, I don't think you ever talked about it or anything, but did you just sense that the Lord wanted you to tell your story?
Absolutely. Back when it happened, she's been gone 25 years now. And back when it happened, I didn't have the opportunity, you know, as a pastor's wife. I was busy, and there was always something pressing. And so I never had the opportunity, but I always knew, because there were so many things the Lord showed me about suffering and people who are walking through tragedies. You know, bad things do happen to good people. And there's a whole nother area of people out there who are walking in difficulty. So I knew.
If you like a pie in the sky theology, this is not your book.
No, it is not.
Not at all.
No, it is not.
Well, let's go back to the beginning. You've been married since 1968, but you were
Yes.
engaged to a man who was not a Christian.
Mm-hmm.
Drunk, went to
Yeah.
well, in jail.
Right.
Where
He
were
was
your
a
parents?
mess.
Do you want to marry this guy?
Everyone said that, yes. Yes, everyone said that.
Isn't it amazing, though, when you're moving in the will of the Lord, how He makes the
Right.
way?
That's right.
There's
he
it out.
does. And I'm so glad I stuck it out.
And as we get into this, it took a very special man, I think. If I ever saw a story that could just rip a couple apart,
Absolutely.
it would be this story.
Yes.
You were unable to have children, so you adopted.
Yes, adopted Miranda. And that's all I ever wanted, was to be a mother. And early on had complications where I could not conceive and bear a child, just medically impossible. And so the Lord allowed us to adopt our precious Miranda. So for 13 years, I was childless.
And then, can you describe how shocked you were maybe when the doctor says you're pregnant?
Blown away, absolutely blown away. And because I knew that we couldn't conceive. And the background for the miraculous conception, I called it, is that I had made a decision in my own heart we were in ministry, and I had made a decision to stop that. Been hurt, those kind of things, and I just said no more. And so I manipulated and kind of connived and got my way. And when I did, it was only 1 month later that I conceived, which conceived Rebecca, which was a miracle. And her name translated means a noose, to tie up. And she was the vehicle that tied me up into 4 walls for the Lord to talk to me. And yes, we were all blown away. We thought it was going to be a wonderful, happy ending.
Oh, it would be like your wildest dream.
Right,
coming true.
Absolutely.
Now, Rebecca was born with Down syndrome. Did you know that ahead of time?
No, we did not. No, we did not.
How soon did you know it after she was born?
Immediately. We didn't recognize the signs. As you know, we were just so thrilled that our little girl was there. We didn't recognize the little limp body and the hoarseness in her voice and the different signs that we know now would have been indicators, but we could tell by the people in the room that they knew something was wrong.
And hers was so extreme because there's a lot of functioning children and adults with Down syndrome.
Right.
There was something very extreme about this. I've never read about anything as extreme as yours was.
She was very high functioning. The tragic part was when she was only 3 months old, she began to she had an upper respiratory infection. And during this time, we also found out that she had a little hole in her heart. And so that would only require just a little patch to fix it, and she would have been okay. But she was hospitalized, and cardiology took over, and just a lot of well-meaning people made a lot of mistakes. And so the mistakes that were made through our medical experience, hospitalizations, caused her to have a respiratory arrest, and then followed that a cardiac arrest, which caused severe brain damage.
As I read it, I thought it wouldn't be quite as likely today.
Right.
I think there's a little more checks and balances,
Yes.
perhaps, but also I remember the day when the doctor's word was, that was the final. You didn't question it.
Yes.
And I'm not being disrespectful to doctors. My children wouldn't be alive without doctors. They're both cancer survivors,
Absolutely.
and Michael's
Yes.
had a kidney transplant. So it's nothing against that, but you can still ask questions.
Right.
And did you ever ask any questions? You thought these medical people know what they're doing? And
It was a whole new ball game for us. Number one, we'd never been around anyone who had a handicapped child, so we were having to learn about that, having to learn who she was, that she wasn't who she was portrayed to be. So there was a whole new learning thing that we were walking in. And then I had come from the era that whatever doctors said was true, you know. But then there's that mother thing. That mother knows that child. She may not know all the medical terms, but she knows her baby. And so there was a real mixture in there. There were a lot of times we wanted to just grab her up and run. And
it might have been the best thing to do.
Yeah, except that we would have been put in jail or something.
But also so many medications that are antibiotics, things that are teeth crumbled. When I read that, I thought, somebody's not watching here. She was in the hospital for months, wasn't she?
Yes, for 9 months. She was on a respirator. Yeah, after she was receiving potassium.
And she was blind.
After the cardiac arrest, she lost her vision, but we didn't know that until we got her home.
How did they know that? She couldn't talk, she couldn't tell you anything.
Right. There was somehow that we had her tested, and they could watch her response to certain objects, and they could tell. And it wasn't her eyes. Her eyes were perfectly healthy. It was because she had had the cardiac arrest. Her heart was stopped for 20 minutes. And it was the damage.
20 minutes?
20 minutes. Her heart was stopped for 20 minutes. Wow. She was receiving potassium through 5 sources. And that morning we knew she was in trouble. And so she had a...
Was the heart attack from too much potassium?
Too much potassium, yes. Fine line between too much and not enough. And so her heart was stopped for 20 minutes. So that then caused the severe brain damage, loss of sight. It was called cortical blindness. And lost her vision, never saw her smile again.
And they discouraged you from taking her home.
Right.
What they want to do with her?
Well, they wanted us to pull the plug and let her go. They took advantage of a scenario where they had to give her a loading dose of phenobarbital, didn't tell us what that would do. That put her in a comatose position. And during that time, they wanted us to, because of our welfare, us to remove her from life support. And basically, after many head-to-head conversations, the way that they would do that is that we would pull her off life support, and then we would stand by her side for 3 days and watch her drown. And so that's what we were presented with. And they no longer, because we hit the quality life issue. And she was, number one, born with Down syndrome. And then she had had a cardiac arrest. And they said that she would not come off the respirator even if they fixed her heart. But God always has a man. And God had a little third-year cardiac guy there, and he took them all on, and he said, she will come off, you fix her heart. So anyway, they fixed her heart, and she did come off the respirator.
And you were basically told, and you know, maybe this is good. It doesn't sound good, but it'll probably destroy your marriage.
That's what they said it would do.
And that your daughter
would hate
your
her.
other daughter would hate this daughter.
Yes.
But you took her home, and just describe what your life was like. You had a little help from your mother, but this baby was in pain all the time. Now, that's
Constant.
what would drive me up the wall.
It was constant pain because when you would put, she had to have a G-tube because she could not, they said if she swallowed anything, it would go into the lungs because of the brain damage, which we got her off the G-tube. But anyway, you would put the milk in or the formula in, and then she would have this horrifying pain that would come over her, and we would just be hours and hours and hours doing the little exercises and doing everything we knew to relieve the pain. So it was constant. We finally found out that she could handle raw goat milk, and so that's what we fed her for the longest time. But don't have any explanation for that except that that's just the way it was. I don't know if the antibiotics, because she had taken
Well, she was so little and had so much medication.
Yeah, so much medication, and but yeah, then the pain, and then the long dark nights, and there were nights when I would just, in the middle of the night, my mother slept on a pallet next to her bed, and she never slept more than, Rebecca never slept more than about an hour and a half, and we'd be up all hours of the night with pain, and I would just look up into heaven and say, do something, just do something, and there was nothing. There was no still small voice, but all the while, it was the loving Heavenly Father who was working in all of this to reveal His love to us, and to ultimately, when we're in those kind of dark places, you don't think God's love can be anywhere around. But it's in those dark moments that God's love is there, and He's working a deep work.
And don't you see Him a lot of time in hindsight?
Yes, yes.
We could use 2 hours with you. I'm going to move along here because your marriage is fine, strong.
Yes.
Her husband, Pastor Frank, is here in the studio with us, but also she passed away in the middle of the night.
Right.
And you found her the next morning. And from that moment on, I think this book is such an illustration of the kingdom of God. How He takes something like this,
yes,
and He said, okay, I think Brenda needs the meat grinder. And how forgiveness, was your life like, first place, you were probably exhausted?
always.
Mentally, spiritually, physically, any way
sleep.
you could be exhausted. And was it like, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but was it like an onion and peeled back?
Oh, it definitely was.
Peel
because
back.
all pressure is for a purpose, and we don't have to worry about the fire of God, because the fire of God is not meant to destroy us. The fire of God is to refine us and free us. And so a little ways down the line, I got the message that there was something going on much greater than holding my precious little girl in my lap. And God began to reveal to me areas of my own heart that I had held for myself. And this pressure was designed to get my attention, to free me from everything that I was holding, keeping back for myself. And so the pressure, I knew then that that's what the pressure was for, and I began to try to work with it.
We have the website up for Brenda, and the name of the book is Rebecca, the Voice of God, and that's a great title. It's a great title. This little helpless baby, her life was not in vain, and we know she's dancing.
Absolutely.
She's dancing on the streets of glory.
Yes, yes.
And it's just one of the most heartbreaking things I've ever read because of her utter helplessness.
Right.
She's blind.
Right.
She's in pain. She cannot communicate. And every mother's heart is, I'm going to fix this.
Yes.
I'm going to fix this.
Yes.
And there was nothing you could fix.
There was absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. And I got to the place where, when you first start out, when you're in the hospital, standing guard in the pediatric ICU, it's life at any cost. And you're fighting quality life, and you're fighting for your child's surgery so you can get her home. You're fighting. Life at any cost. And then as she grew, I saw this little girl growing inside her body's growing, who was trapped in bondage. And no longer did it become life at any cost, but real love says, regardless of what I want or what I feel, I want what's best for you. And so then my cry began, Lord, set her free, heal her, whatever that means.
How old did she get?
She was 3.5.
Yeah.
3.5 when the Lord took her.
And did she grow to a
Yes.
normal size?
Yes, yes, in body length, yes, she was, yes.
Well, it seemed to me that from your perspective, but all the hurt and the pain, I can only imagine. It's like somebody's just had knives supplied every way. That forgiveness was a big thing. Now,
yes,
who all needed forgiveness? I'm sure some of the medical people, although they might have had the best of intentions.
Well-meaning, yes, yes. There were a lot of people, a lot of medical professionals, and on 2 occasions the Lord dealt with me about that. The first, early on, I had to go and kind of get a little adjustment, how the Lord says this is what we're working on and this is how it's gonna be. And so there were things that had happened that in my mind's eye hurt really bad. I don't want to say the word abuse, but your perception is what's going on. I perceived it as that. And so I had to call up, the Lord had me to call up all of those pictures in my mind, things that caused me tremendous pain. And as an act of my will, I chose to forgive. I didn't feel it. It wasn't an emotion. It was a choice I made. He said, you must do this. And so we went through every picture, every scenario, and I can honestly say that from that moment until this moment, I can remember those things and they don't cause me any pain.
Praise God.
And then again, the Lord told me, He shared with us 13 months before He came to get her that He would come to get her. And so He prepared us for that. And He told us what that would mean for her. And so during that length of time, then there was another series of encounters I had with the Lord. He said, you know, not even the smallest root of unforgiveness can remain. And I thought, well, you know, I've forgiven everybody I know, but you know, He took me back, and there was
He does that.
Yeah, and you don't realize in the beginning things that you hold anger for and resentments for until you get peeling the onion, you know. So before He came to get her, there was another exercise in forgiveness.
And I want the folks to know the details here because we're just about out of time. Like I said, the website has been up, that you can get it through this. And it is such, Brenda, it's such a picture of Christianity. Our Christianity in America today is just pablum.
That's right.
And this is the stuff that really makes those soldiers of the cross. And I'm so glad you wrote it down. I hope that a lot of people will get it and understand that this walk with the Lord, it can make a lot of twists and turns. You just have to decide, I'm going with you, Jesus.
That's
no
right.
matter what, I'm going with you. I remember the day I had to do that.
Yes.
And I'm glad I did. And I'm sorry we're out of time. That's what I'm sorry about. But please join me next time, remembering there's no higher calling than that of a homekeeper.
Absolutely.
God bless you.
Yes.
If you should miss a Homekeepers program, you can catch up by going to www.ctnonline.com. Click on CTN Programs and then on Homekeepers.